Hi, good morning. Some people have been suggesting some videos about drawing basics, and I thought I would start here with a brief talk about light and the way that light reacts with round forms. So when you're drawing a head or a face, you can kind of look at it as a study in rounded forms if you really start to break it down. So when we're drawing people, understanding how light behaves on rounded shapes is important to understand, and it's really not super complicated. Some of you may have seen this before, but if you haven't, it's really valuable to know. And if your work looks a bit flat, it can really help you to sell the idea of volume in 3 dimensions on a 2-dimensional surface. So I'll start with just a simple sphere, and I will put my light source up here. And I'm going to bring my light source forward a little bit. If my light source is directly to the side, my shadow is going to look like that. But if I bring that forward a little bit, then my shadow can take this kind of shape. So we've got the light side and we've got the shadow side. I think you're all with me so far. Right, and the light side is getting primary exposure to the light, and I'm going to put in a little cast shadow here. I'm not really talking about cast shadows today. They have a little bit of a different character, but what I'm talking about today is a form shadow. And a cast shadow is caused when one object gets in the way of another object and it blocks the light. But a form shadow is, this kind of a shadow is formed when the object itself is moving away from the light, and when it's not facing towards the light, that creates a form shadow. I can put in my essential hotspot, which is the spot that is perpendicular to the light. It's catching the most light that it can. So we have light side and shadow side, and where they meet, we'll call that the terminator. And then just past that, we get the beautiful core shadow. And the core shadow is the darkest part of your shadow. And it blends into ambient shadow, which is back here, a little bit dark. Now your ambient is just room light. That's just light that's bouncing around the room. It's even if your primary light source is your only light source, that light is still bouncing off the walls and bouncing off the table. So it's not pitch black back here. It's still dark. It's still on the shadow side, but it's just not, it doesn't need to be black. And then you also have a reflected light down here. And that is light that's caused, this light is hitting the table and it's bouncing right up here. And you're getting this, if this were a white table, you're going to get a white reflection right there. In a portrait, if a person's wearing a white shirt, you will often get this little reflection under the chin. You might get one back here, you might get one here. And it's because there's a reflection of that brightness. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they see that reflection on their reference, and it always looks like it's brighter than it really is. And people will go in and go, okay, I want that to really hit that reflection, and that's too much. That starts to look like an object that's coming out at you. So the idea here is that you've got the light team and the shadow team, and everything on the shadow team needs to still be darker than everything on the light team. And another way of saying that is that your brightest dark still needs to be darker than your darkest light. And I think I said that right. So that's that reflected light. If you have a reflected light here, like here on the chin, it can still be fairly light, but it just needs to not start competing with value with the light side. Now, I'm not suggesting that you take everything from here and try to apply it to every little curved shape in here. That would be way, way too much. But the value in understanding this is that you start to see it when you're drawing this, or when you're looking at your reference. You start to see subtle things like core shadows, and they can be hard to see if they're there at all. And a lot of artists will put them in whether they're there or not because they're so descriptive. The point being that if you see it, you have the opportunity to use it. You might not want to use it, but having the opportunity is better than not seeing it at all. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I hope I didn't simplify this too much, and I hope you got something out of it. If you have any comments or questions, please just leave them below. And thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.